Hey everyone, it's Kate, and I am here with Karen Winther today. She is a local quilter who, as you will see, is absolutely amazing. But today she's just going to talk to us about big stitch quilting, hand quilting, which is really fun, and I think that I could actually do it. So when did you start big stitch quilting?
Well, it was about 2012, and I'm not sure where I heard it from, but magazines and online and quilt shows, and I just thought it sounded like fun, so I gave it a try.
And so why do you love it? Why have you become so prolific?
Well, I'm not a small stitch person with hands like these, and so I thought, well, I could do bigger stitches, which are normal. The normal stitches when you hand quilt are very tiny, and you have to have maybe 10 in an inch.
Oh my gosh.
Well, these are from 1/8 of an inch to about 1/4 of an inch, and so I thought I could handle that. And usually use a lot more colors.
Oh, that's really fun, yeah.
And it's relaxing, and it's kind of an artistic
right. I feel like doing the 1/16 of an inch stitches is not relaxing.
No.
But the bigger
Plus
ones.
you have to use teeny tiny needles.
Right, right. And that it would take me all day just to thread it.
Yeah.
So why don't you show us some of these quilts we have on the wall, and then we'll talk some more about technique.
Okay. So this is actually the first one I did with big stitches. And the background is a Lone Star that's foundation pieced. And
so pretty.
Yeah, and so I love color, as you can see. So I just went with that. And this one is called Supernova in Space Junk.
Oh my gosh.
I love this background.
Oh yeah. Well, and I love, so you did yellow on yellow, orange on orange, pink on pink. And then on some of these other ones, you used more of a contrasting stitch.
Yes. Like this one has a lot of contrast, and it was actually an old sweater that I wore out, but I really liked the front of it, so I made a quilt out of it. And then I used the different colored stitches. I did one in the heart shape on the outside, and then to contrast the heart in the middle, I went back and forth. And then this one was a Van Gogh challenge for cherry wood fabrics, and he's in his room, but the circles here are like the Starry Night.
Yeah.
And so I just went around and around and around.
Yeah.
And then it caused some texture, like in the floor here, the tile floor.
Right.
The one on top is just one I was messing around with circles, and I thought it would be fun to just do all different colored circles with the...
Right, and you'll show us some tools you use to make the circles even.
Yes. Yeah.
And then what about the heart one with the rainbow? I just love that.
That one, I found that the heart fabric, and I thought, wow, that's pretty neat. So I was actually doing a heart challenge and heart quilt challenge. And so I just cut out some hearts, and then there is a heart that I stitched into it with rays coming out of it, if you can see that.
Oh, yeah. No, now I see it. Yeah. That's great. And then the cream one, it looks like you machine quilted it and then big stitch quilted it.
I added some big stitch just to add a little texture and a little more interest to it. It's very minimal quilted.
Yeah.
And I just think the extra little lines add a lot of interest to it.
Right. And then the one on the table is, so you hand piece that,
yes,
right?
That's English paper pieced. it was actually, the hexagons are machine pieced with the strip in the middle, and then it's hand pieced with English paper piecing. And then I just simply followed the outline of the flowers and quilted that. And then in the border, I just did it like a chevron shape
Right.
with the blue.
Well, I love that you can use a super traditional quilt and big stitch quilt it, or you can kind of bump up a really modern quilt and make it, use it with big stitch quilting.
Yes.
That's really fun.
It is, and it's relaxing, and it's something to do while you're watching TV.
Yeah.
With your hands.
Yeah.
And, so.
So talk to us about the supplies you use for big stitch quilting and how you get your quilt ready to hand stitch it with big stitches.
Okay. So just start out with the thread is something that you can use different kinds of thread. I like to have, this is pearl cotton, and it's number 8. And so it's a nice thicker than a regular sewing thread. And then you can also use embroidery floss. And this is sashiko thread. There's wool thread that you can use. And then you can even use glitzy stuff.
So do you ever, you never wash a quilt that you've big stitched in the machine, do you?
Not really, because it might catch, you know, the stitches are big, but you can wash it by hand, or, you know, you could probably put it on gentle for a spin kind of thing, but I wouldn't agitate it or anything like that.
Right, right. So do you ever think about the fiber content of the thread in comparison to the quilt?
Not really, because I really don't wash my quilts that much, so I don't really worry about it.
Yeah.
Because a lot of them are kind of art quilts.
Right.
And then some other tools are, of course, rulers, and this Hera.
Yeah, Hera marker.
Marker is something that's really fun that I'll show you later. And then you just have I like to use big stitch needles. I like to use long needles these are embroidery needles, and these are the big stitch needles. And Kate,
we just started carrying the big stitch ones.
And so I like them because they're sharp, and they have a big eye, and they're longer, so you can do a couple of stitches.
Yeah.
Need
Load
some
it up.
Scissors and a marking pencil. This one happens to be water soluble, but you can use any kind of marking pencil you like. And then you probably need a pencil sharpener.
Yeah.
Needles. I just have this little needle pack to keep my needles in. And another thing you can use for marking is masking tape.
Is that painter's tape?
Yeah, it's a painter's tape. And I ordered this online because I couldn't find it anywhere.
Right.
In
So
town,
that's a nice 1/2 inch.
Yeah,
so.
it's a 1/2 inch. And then beeswax.
Right. So we'll start carrying this Carolyn Friedlander.
This is from Carolyn Friedlander.
Stuff, but we do have some Taylor's beeswax from Merchant and Mills.
Smell that.
Oh my gosh, that smells so good.
This is citrus and sage smell, so it smells really good.
But not too strong. I like that.
Yeah. And
so tell me what you do with that. Like you just run the thread along it?
You can take your thread, just a piece of thread, and I just put it on there with my thumb and just go like that for the length of thread I want.
And then
it coats it, and it helps stop knotting, and it goes through the fabric a lot easier.
Yeah.
So that's why you want to use that. I hadn't used it, and a friend said I should, and I tried it, and I really liked it.
Yeah.
Because I hate it when you're in the middle of something and you get a knot.
Yeah.
and
then
it won't come out.
Yeah, and then
So,
it's like, okay.
Yeah. Some other things you can use for marking are stencils, like circles, and here's a hexagon one. And then this is actually cut out of template plastic. And what I did was I took one of these blobs here
Oh.
and just made a stencil, and then I used that in my border.
Oh, so it's purposely wonky.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's.
So-
I say that, but I don't always mean it. It's like that was on purpose.
Yeah, it was supposed to be that.
It was supposed to be like that.
That's another thing about big stitching. It doesn't have to be perfect.
Yeah.
It's
Yay.
perfectly imperfect.
Yay. Okay, that's my kind of stitching. So you've got some examples of how you get your quilt ready for big stitching.
Yes. So what I do is there's a back, and then there's batting, and then your top. And I just sewed a couple pieces together just for demonstration purposes. But then you can baste it, and you can either pin baste it, which can be kind of a hassle because then you have to take the pins out.
Right.
Or you can just do a running stitch with just regular thread and just make huge stitches through there and baste it.
Yeah. So how close together do you like your basting lines to be?
I don't do very much because it could
Like 6
confuse
inches?
yourself.
Oh, yeah, right.
Yeah, 6 inches, and you might want to go crossways too a couple times. It's just to hold everything together because
Right.
you're sitting there quilting this, so you don't want it to
Move around.
move around and
Right. It's not going to be relaxing if you don't
no.
first hand baste it.
Yeah. So
Right.
then I decide, well, the easiest thing if you've got seams in your project is to start out and just follow a seam like 1/4 of an inch apart. So I'm
Right.
gonna-
You have it?
It's
You're
important when you're threading your needle to put the end that comes off of your spool in there first. So
Because that's the way it's spun in the mill.
and so that's
That will reduce the.
yeah, it's got, if you feel your thread, it's softer going this way than it is this way. You can feel a
Oh.
different
Wow.
texture on your thread, so it'll go through the fabric easier.
Cool.
So then I'm gonna
Be good. Yeah.
take this stuff.
Want me to pull it? You want to hold it on and I'll pull the thread.
Let's
Oh,
see.
we're going to go that
See if
way.
I can get it. How am I doing this? Okay. Okay. So that's on there. And then there is a technique for knotting so that you don't have a huge old knot. And so you're going to take your thread and put it like that and then overlap. Oops. Overlap it and wrap it around once and then hold it like that, and then you just go all the way down and you've got a nice knot on the end of your thread.
Whoop.
Whoops.
But yeah, that's nice. Not too big.
Yeah. So
And then you trim right close to it.
Yeah.
Okay.
so then when you start, and if you're doing something little like this, you might be able to, and you're just doing a straight line across, you might just be able to make one swipe, so you don't need to hide your knot. But if you don't want to do that, then you start out
Going
say,
the
yeah.
other direction.
and you just pull it through, and then when you get to the knot, you just pull it through your fabric.
Once.
Okay, so then
yeah.
it's buried in there, and so then you can just use that as your guide, and just
Right.
kind of start
Just load up the needle.
and pull it through. Okay.
Yeah, I can
Now
handle
this is just kind of freehand stitching,
Right.
and you know when you first start out, it might be a little crooked, but that's the charm of it.
Right.
So then you can do other things like Oh, other straight lines, let's start with that. So what if you wanted to do like a diagonal line across here? You could take this and just put it across there.
And then
And
go on either side.
Yeah, and then I'm just going to cut this off. You want to make a knot.
Right. We'll
You
pretend.
can just go along that line. You can go along both sides of it if you want,
Right.
you know, and just go along. My stitches are bigger, but if yours are smaller, that's okay. Because you can always, if you don't like something, you can always just take it out.
Yeah.
Then you also, maybe you want a shape. So that's when your pencils come in handy. You just draw around there. That's your stitching line.
Yeah.
So you're going to knot it again, you know, and then you start out, when you start out with your knot, you want to bury it. You don't want to go all the way through your fabric, but you want to just bury it and
Right.
start out. No,
So you
pretending I'm burying
pop it. Yeah. Okay. We heard that. We heard the pretend
pop.
pop. Yeah.
And then you just start going around. Okay, so when you come to the end of your stitching, then you're going to want to knot it again.
Right. How do you do that?
So you can either, one of two ways. You can either go to the other side. Well, let's try it this way. You can kind of estimate where your next stitch is going to come in and then make a knot. And then just go in between your quilt sandwich, and then you're going to come up
And pop it.
and pop it through. And then you can just cut it off.
And then when you,
Yeah.
so then that string will just be in between, in the middle of your quilt sandwich.
Yeah.
And no one's the wiser.
No.
Awesome.
And then you can also, if you're at your last stitch, you can go through and bring it through and then do a knot.
And it'll be on the back.
And it'll be on the back. And then just make a little tiny stitch.
Oh, I see. And hide
Go-
it back there.
Yeah, hide it back here.
Oh.
Anyway, it just has an extra little stitch on the back.
Right.
Which it
And
doesn't really matter
And
on
sometimes
these.
I pull a little bit and then trim
Yes.
right next to it because then,
Because it'll pop right back inside to the
yeah.
fabric. Let's see, what else? I think that's about. Of
Wow.
course, you can always, oh, here's this, what I was going to use this too. You
Yeah.
can always use rulers. And then here's where this hair marker comes in. And it's just a piece of plastic.
Right. And we have those.
Okay. And so you want to do a straight line. You just go like this. And then you see that line there?
Yeah.
That's your sewing line.
So how long does that stay? Do you have to like do it and then sew pretty quickly or?
Well, it'll stay, you know, if you just let it sit there for a couple hours, it's okay, but eventually it'll go away.
Yeah.
And it's something, whereas this, when you get done, you might have to erase it a little bit.
Right.
Usually the lines go away because your hands will
Oh, right.
kind
And
of,
it's always good to
the
experiment
moisture
though.
from your hands
Yeah.
kind of gets rid of the line. Yeah.
And it's also really good to experiment with any marking to make sure
Yes.
that it will go away.
That's really important because one time I used a yellow one.
Oh.
Didn't turn out very well.
Now you have yellow.
Yeah.
You can say it was
Also,
on purpose though.
I don't use a thimble, but if you want to use a thimble, you can.
Yeah.
And,
Oh yeah, we have
Kate's got some other things
thimble
that
dimples.
go
that-
on the end of your finger
yeah.
so that you don't get, but my finger is so
Calloused?
callous now, I don't need one.
You have it built in.
Yeah.
So let's talk about these final examples.
Okay.
So this one, you're just like creating a fabric before you maybe make a bag out of it, or?
Yes, I just was doing simple for texture. So you could do anything you want with it, but it just kind of adds some more texture, and I was just going to use some of the colors that are in.
Right, and there's no batting. You just have two layers of fabric that you've basted around the edge.
Whenever you're doing just a single piece of fabric, you want to have some kind of backing on it, and this is just a piece of cotton that I had. So, and I actually machine stitched all the way around it, just to hold it in place, because I would probably cut it up into something else.
Yeah. Cool. So that's a great. I would love to make a bag like that.
Or you could make a vest, or anything that you wanted to.
Yeah. Cool.
Fancy up a little bit.
Yeah.
Now this one started out as something else.
I love that about your quilting. I feel like when you tell the stories of your quilt, you're frequently like, well, I was going to do A, but then the fabric spoke to me and I did B.
Yeah. This one happened to be from a challenge that our quilt guild had, and this guy had a little mask on him for our quilt show. But I cut the mask off and decided that it would be really neat to use some big stitches on the inside of him.
Yeah, that'll be. You think you'll use like a gray or a black, or do you think you'll do more rainbowy?
I was thinking more like Christmas.
Oh,
like red and green.
That's amazing to create change a black and white quilt to a Christmas quilt with some big stitching. That's magical. And now that we have COVID, you can put his mask back on.
It was an eye mask.
Oh, an eye mask. Yeah, right.
I could put a COVID mask on.
And then I love what you're doing with this one.
Okay, so this was one that I had, and it just didn't have a lot of pizzazz to it. It was a 2-color quilt, and this background has the orange in it, but it didn't show up real well. And so when I quilted it, I just used some gray thread and kind of mimicked what was in this, but you couldn't really see it. Right. So then I decided that I'm going to go over the stitching, the machine stitching, with some pearl cotton and make it stand out more.
Yeah, I just love it.
I hadn't stitched in the gray part, but I think I might do some orange in the gray part.
You could kind of do the same thing. Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah, so I love that you think something is finished, and then you look at it for a little while and you say, you know what, it could be even better.
This for probably a year and a half, and it just came to me one day that it needed something more.
Yeah.
And that's what's great about it, because you can
do it at any point.
And I mean, if you want to just do a straight line a couple times through, like the cream one over there, you can. And if you feel like you need a little bit more to your quilt.
Yeah. Well, thank you. Oh, yeah. This is a
black
lovely
and white one too. It started out. It didn't. I wasn't going to do the stitches, but then it just, again, needed something more.
Right.
And
I think that they really add to it.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Karen.
Thank you.
I really enjoyed talking to you about this, and now I feel inspired to do big stitching, because it's the kind of thing that I can handle. And this winter we will need things to do while watching TV, listening to podcasts.
That's because my husband always doesn't like me to be in my sewing room at night.
Oh.
So I feel obligated to sit up and watch TV with him. And so I have to have a project. And so this is great.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
Yeah, so thank you for being guinea pig number 2. And we will have more local quilters to come. I'll be back on Wednesday at noon finishing up my chai tea. And so thanks for watching, everyone.
Bye.
See you soon.